Hi folks, this is Jason. Hope you're okay today. It's good to see you. I've been doing some research recently on evolution, and I want to give you some information that will shock you concerning evolution. This is in page 241 of James Perloff, Tornado in a Junkyard, 1999. He says, the evolutionary establishment fears creation science because evolution itself crumbles when challenged by evidence. In the 1970s and 1980s, hundreds of public debates were arranged between evolutionary scientists and creationist scientists. The latter scored resounding victories with the result that today few evolutionists will debate. Isaac Asimov, Stephen Jay Gould, and the late Carl Sagan, while highly critical of creationism, all declined to debate. The next piece of information is by Michael Denton, Evolution, A Theory in Crisis, 1985, page 67, Australian molecular biologist. It was because Darwinian theory broke man's link with God and set him adrift in a cosmos without purpose or end that its impact was so fundamental. No other intellectual revolution in modern times so profoundly affected the way men viewed themselves and their place in the universe. Norman Macbeth, Darwin, Retired, page 71, 1971, page 147. Unfortunately, in the field of evolution, most explanations are not good. As a matter of fact, they are hardly qualifying explanations at all. They are suggestions, hunches, pipe dreams, hardly worthy of being called hypotheses. Tom Bethel, Agnostic Evolutionist, Harper's, February 1985, page 61. No one has ever found an organism that is known not to have parents or a parent. This is the strongest evidence on behalf of evolution. Charles Darwin, 1866, quoted in H. Enoch, Evolution or Creation, page 197. As by this theory innumerable transitional forms must have existed, why do we not find them embedded in the crust of the earth? Why is it not all nature in confusion instead of being, as we see them, well-defined species? Scientists have no proof that life was not the result of an act of creation. Robert Astro, The Enchanted Loom, Mind in the Universe, 1981, page 19, leading astronomer. Evolution became, in a sense, a scientific religion. Almost all scientists have accepted it, and many are prepared to bend their observations to fit in with it. H. Lipson, a physicist, looks at evolution, Physics Bulletin, 3198, page 138. So that's just a few bits of information there, and we've got more information to come. Just let's think about it. Let's just think about evolution, how it started. They call it abiogenesis, but just think about this. Nothing plus nothing equals two elements, plus time equals 92 natural elements, plus time equals all physical laws, and a complete structured universe of galaxies, systems, stars, planets, and moons, orbiting in perfect balance and order. Think about that. Just think about it. Nothing plus nothing equals two elements plus time equals 92 natural elements plus time, all physical laws, a completely structured universe of galaxies, systems, stars, planets, and moons, orbiting perfect balance and order. Is that rational? Is that really, really rational? Is it really, really rational, folks? Here's a thought. Those who laid the foundation of science in the 1800s, many of them were creationists. William Paley, 1743–1805, in his 1802 classic Natural Theology, said this: "The kind of carefully designed structures we see in the living world point clearly to designer. I honestly don't think that anyone has ever equaled that in brilliance." Fred Hoyle, an eminent scholar, said that Paley's argument appears unanswerable. There was scientific information before Darwin that actually disproved Darwinian evolution. Carlos Linnaeus, 1707–1778, was a scientist who classified immense numbers of living organisms. An earnest creationist, he clearly saw that there were no halfway species. All plant and animal species were definite categories, separate from one another. Variation was possible within a species, and there were many subspecies, but there were no crossovers from the species to another. R. Milner, Encyclopedia of Evolution, 1990, page 76. The first law of thermodynamics, 1847. Heinrich von Helmont stated the law of conservation of energy. Sum total of all matter will always remain the same. This law refutes several aspects of evolutionary theory. Isaac Asimov calls it the most fundamental generalization about the universe that scientists have ever been able to make. Isaac Asimov, in The Game of Energy and Thermodynamics, You Can't Even Break Even. Journal of Smithsonian Institute, June 1970, page 6. The second law of thermodynamics, 1850, R.J.E. Close, stated the law of entropy. All systems will tend towards the most mathematically probable state, and eventually become totally random and disorganized. Harold Bloom, Times, Arrow and Evolution, 1968, page 201. In other words, everything runs down, wears out, and goes to pieces. R. Kinsey, Physics, To What Extent Is It Deterministic? American Scientist, 56, 1968, page 100. This law totally eliminates the basic evolutionary theory that simple evolves into complex. Einstein said that two laws were the most enduring laws he knew of. Jeremy Rifkin, Entropy, A New Worldview, 1980, page 6. Guadeloupe woman found, 1812. This is a well-authenticated discovery which has been in the British Museum for over a century. A fully modern human skeleton was found in the French Caribbean island of Guadeloupe inside an immense slab of limestone dated by modern geologists at 28 million years old. More examples could be cited. Human beings just like those living today, but sometimes larger, have been found in very deep levels of strata. Woohoo! You did tell us that, evolutionist. Gregor Mendel, 1822–1884, was a creationist who lived and worked near Brno, now Brno, Czechoslovakia. He was a science and math teacher. Unlike the theorist, Mendel was a true scientist. He bred garden peas and studied the results across various varieties. Beginning his work in 1856, he concluded within 8 years. In 1865, he reported his research in the Journal of Brno Society for the Study of Natural Science. The journal was distributed to 120 libraries in Europe, England, and America, yet his research was totally ignored by the scientific community until it was rediscovered in 1900. R. A. Fisher has Mendel's work being rediscovered, and Annals of Science, Volume 1, Number 2, 1936. His experiments clearly showed that one species could not transmute into another one. A genetic barrier existed that could not be bridged. Mendel's work laid the basis for modern genetics, and his discoveries effectively destroyed the basis of species evolution. Michael Pittman, Adam and Evolution, 1984, page 63-64. Louis Pasteur, 1822-1895, was another genuine scientist. In the process of studying fermentation, he performed his famous 1861 experiment in which he disproved the theory of spontaneous generation. Life cannot arise from non-living material. This experiment was very important, for up to that time a majority of scientists believed in spontaneous generation. They thought that if a pile of old clothes were left in a corner, it would breed mice. The proof was that upon later returning to the clothes, mice would frequently be found there. Pasteur concluded from his experiment that only God could create living creatures, but modern evolutionary theory continues to be based on that outdated theory disproved by Pasteur. Spontaneous generation, life arises from non-life. Why? Because it is the only basis on which evolution could occur. As Adams notes, with spontaneous generation discredited by Pasteur, biologists were left with no theory of the origin of life at all. J. Edison Adams, Plants, and Introduction to Modern Biology, 1967, to page 585. Augustus Frederick Leopold Weizmann, 1834 to 1914, was a German biologist who disproved Lambert's notion of inheritance acquired characteristics. He is primarily remembered as a scientist. Sorry about that. Augustus Frederick Leopold Weizmann, 1834 to 1914, was a German biologist who disproved Lamarck's notion of the inheritance of acquired characteristics. He is primarily remembered as the scientist who cut off the tails of 901 young white mice in 19 successive generations, yet each new generation was born with a full-length tail. The final generation, he reported, had tails as long as those originally measured on the first. Weizmann also carried out other experiments that buttressed his refutation of Lamarckism. His discoveries, along with the fact that circumcision of Jewish males for 4,000 years had not affected the foreskin